What's going on, guys? We're back. We have a CivDiv video. It says Tunnel Rat's Guide to Surviving Drone Warfare. So this is going to be badass. CivDiv obviously has a lot of experience in different wars and different war zones and different combat environments. My experience is specifically here in Ukraine, and we agree on almost everything as far as, anybody who's been an infantryman here in Ukraine will agree on a lot of these things. So, but he points out a lot of the most important things that people who have not been here and been to the front and been to the zero line will never know and never point out. And it's extremely important for viewers like you guys who are actually considering coming here to Ukraine. And a bunch of you already have, and some of you are here right now. So let's check this out. Real quick, we'll do, what was the first thing? Discord. Check Discord out. We have all of our uncensored content there. We keep an archive for our members there. We also have a bunch of other channels in the Discord. We have gaming channels, movie channels, mental health channels, outdoors channels, news channels, fitness channels. Dude, you name it, it's over there in the Discord. It's almost got like 5,000 people in it, dude. It's actually insane. Really, really cool stuff over there, and the community is unreal. So go check that out. Link is in the description. Isn't there usually fucking something else I talk about at the beginnings? Why am obviously the link to Azov International Battalion is always linked down below. That's the battalion that I'm in. If you're interested in that, check it out as well. Guess that's it. Let's check it out. Sorry. Oh shit, we have a guest viewer, a guest appearance of the Brewski. The Brucifer. Oh, alright. There she is, saying hi to the camera. She obviously is really comfortable. She loves saying hi to the camera like that.
Warfare is giving you two choices. On one hand, drones. On the other hand, become a tunnel rat. Subterranean warfare is the game changer. Ukraine is already using this in small cases, using bunkers as well as trench lines with overhead concealment, and the Russians are using it for offensive actions such as using the pipelines underneath Kursk and Avdiivka and Bakhmut in order to get behind the lines unseen, and they're able to conduct raids behind the Ukrainian lines. So today we're going to take a look at how is this useful, how can we incorporate some of these lessons learned into Ukraine. Concealment from the air. Drones are the number one threat. Everybody knows this. The thing that tunnels and underground networks give you is that it hides troop movement, it hides vehicle movement. Yes, you could drive vehicles through some of these tunnels, which makes it so that the logistics, which is constantly being hit by fiber optic drones 20 kilometers behind the lines, so supplies and logistics can be transported underground. That's how we did in Iraq. And that's all because we do not have aerial surveillance on us, which just completely overwhelms everybody that's in Ukraine right now. From above, the tunnels can be visible. You can see the air vents come out of it. You can see the disturbed ground. But beyond the tunnel entrance, it's very difficult to find out which route you took, which forces the attackers to rely on less precise sensors or risk engaging unknown targets, just hitting a random field. And obviously it gives you protection from the most lethal killer, which is shrapnel from bombs, either dropped from drones or from artillery and indirect fire. And overall, they're going to reduce the effectiveness of these FPVs. And I've seen arguments from both sides. Why don't you just fly an FPV into the tunnel? Well, I'll tell you what, the one thing that seems to stop all drones is a net. If you put a net or a blast door inside your tunnels, which is very common, this is what we do in Iraq, it's going to stop any drone that tries to come in. Store inside. I
want to share a couple of... Fuck! The drill again, dude! Wow! Dude, I can't even make this up, man. Well, fuck. I'll share the story when this guy chills out. Okay. Yeah, every time that happens. So I'm just going to talk over it. Sorry, guys. It's part of the fucking environment that I'm living in. So, first off, these drones, dude, do not sleep. These nets. Do not sleep on these nets, man. These are literally the anti-FPV. This is the best form of anti-FPV right now. So we had a drone position. This was a few months back, and very nice position. Deep, well-structured trenches, not tunnels quite, but trenches. And there was one entrance, one exit, and it was covered by this. So typically we would go when the assault teams, the team that I was on would go on an operation. We would rendezvous at that location with the drone team, get some more intel, understand what's going on, and then we would step off to our operation from that location. So, sooner or later, the Russians are going to figure, like, okay, people keep coming out of this netted area. We should hit this. So while we were out on operation, they were hit with like a FPV kind of swarm. And so an FPV would come in, get caught in this, explode, boom, and it would collapse. So it would annihilate the net, obviously, and then collapse the entrance a little bit. So then I'll shout out my boy Arizona, is on the drone team. He would run out and hang up another net. Boom. About 10, 15 minutes later, another drone FPV would come in, get caught in the net, explode, blow up that net. So he did this like 3 or 4 times, right? And he's effectively stopping the FPV threat with these nets. Hundreds of dollars of FPVs and however much it costs those ordnance that are on them, which are big, typically. He is stopping this with nets, and eventually these FPV pilots are going to be like, okay, fuck this, dude. We only brought 10 FPVs today, and we just wasted 5 on nets. Let's move on. So extremely important. And then a lot of you guys, I'll share that story at the end because this guy's still drilling.
Your tunnels, which is very common. This is what we do in Iraq. It's going to stop any drone that tries to come in. The tunnels a lot of times are less than the width of this FPV drone. So flying this guy in there is not going to be very easy. Ground drones, why don't you just net some sandbags on the bottom? It can be stopped very, very easily. You can destroy the entrances, but you can't destroy the occupants inside. Deep inside the tunnel that zigzags. In Iraq, we used the networks of tunnels that we had to go and travel to and from different positions, to go reinforce positions or get out because it's dangerous. We would also use it for logistics. If we needed to go and have years of water, years of food, canned food, and ammunition inside the safety of a tunnel, well, we did it. We had rations stored away in each of the complexes that could sustain us for years. The only way to safely get all the logistics inside of our bunker complex was through the tunnel. And that's what I'm saying. Look, I'm not saying that this is super easy to do. Digging is hard work. It takes a lot of machinery, it takes a lot of manpower, it takes a lot of death as well. There's cave-in, there's all sorts of different dangers, including being in an active war where there's ISR looking at you as you're digging these tunnel systems. It can be very difficult and it can be very time-consuming as well. So this is best if you are not in an active conflict and you are going to be in the defensive role. North Korea has a lot of tunnel systems that go underneath the DMZ and into Korean towns, and they're primed to detonate behind the lines of the South Koreans so that when there's a war that happens, you blow up the entrance and you flood troops in. And that's another thing that tunnels give you is surprise. In Ukraine, we have bunkers that pocket all across the front line. That's very commonplace. We are already using subterranean structures, but to have them connected by tunnels could give you the chance to give logistics to the guys forward of you. It could give you a chance to evacuate casualties without being struck by drones. It could give you the ability to conduct defensive actions because you don't have to get a company-sized element to the front line, which will most certainly be killed and struck by artillery. You can safely get them inside the tunnel right at the entrance and flood them across. That's how Hamas does a lot of their actions, even to this day. A lot of people say, oh, just bomb all the entrances, tunnels, it's a guerrilla warfare thing. Well, we're living in asymmetric warfare, whether you know it or not. This is asymmetry. War has changed. So whether it's going to work in Ukraine right now or not, I'm just saying.
There's a break in the drilling, so I'm going to use this as a chance to talk. He mentioned something at the beginning as far as the larger tunnels with vehicles. I haven't seen these personally, but I know they're out there. I know the Russians use them as well. So if you've been following this content or this conflict, this war, or you've been following my channel, you know that logistics, supplies, getting vehicles anywhere, I would say within 10 to 15 kilometers of a position where you're supposed to go is not doable anymore. Drones will annihilate it. So logistics are effectively kaput. All logistics, as far as vehicles go, all logistics are either brought in on foot or primarily through drones. Food, water, medical supplies, blood bags, that kind of stuff. These larger tunnels that are big enough for vehicles, an ATV, a motorcycle, something like that, I think that's going to be the future of logistic and supply routes to the front line in this war. It's the only thing that can properly evade drones. I mean, we're 3.5 years into this. Drones really became a major problem about 1.5 years ago, 2 years. There's still no answer for these things, man. So instead of trying to find an anti-drone capability, it's better to work around it rather than try to break through that wall, go around the wall, and we dig tunnels. I think that is the future of it. Oh shit! All right. Oh. I'll use this chance to share my story. A lot of you guys know, again, if you've been following my channel, but on this last deployment, I was on with Azov 3rd Battalion. I was on an operation with my team, a 4-day mission. Not my team, I was combat medic on the team. We had a team leader, we had a machine gunner, we have all that, right? So we were infilling to a position when we started taking indirect artillery fire. And it's called indirect. Anything that's mortars or artillery is called indirect fire, but it was very direct. It was directly on us. The first round came in, smashed about 15 meters off to our right side of our patrol formation. And our spacing's probably 20 meters in between each other. So it smashed in between two of us. And we start hauling ass. Luckily, we were pretty close to a friendly Ukrainian position that we were aware of from our pre-operation intelligence. So we knew, okay, if we move fast enough, we can get to this trench system. We know there's a couple of friendlies in there from a different Azov battalion. So we jump into this trench system. We're still taking artillery, but now the FPVs have been dispatched, and the FPVs are coming in. You hear them squealing, bam, and they're exploding. So we're now in the trench. The trench is about yay high, and they're hitting the top, right? They're trying to hit us. We're ducking. We're moving through the trench, trying to get to like a bunker, a more fortified position at the end of the trench, and these FPVs are hitting. Anyways, we finally get to where the Ukrainians are. They know that something's going on because all of a sudden hell broke loose, and now you got a bunch of English speakers screaming, "Go, go, go!" So we're hauling ass down the trench. We get into this position. Cool. The FPVs did not stop. So this position within the trench, it's a bunker, but in the front there's like a chain link over the top. I've shown some videos of this in the past. Netting over the top. Things to prevent FPVs from coming in. These FPV drone pilots are used to this, and they also They also knew we were there, right? So what they did is they started throwing FPVs directly into this netting and this chain link barrier that's above the trench system to remove it, right? They effectively blew it off, and one of those, they're sneaky, dude. So there was a gap, there was a lull for a while from the FPV strikes and the artillery. So we sneak out, me and one other person, and the other guy goes out of the trench and he's looking around. I'm staying kind of by where the chain link and the netting was blown off. So I'm still kind of in cover. And this guy comes back, and I'm like, I hear a drone. And he's like, it's a Mavic, which we're not too concerned about because those are really high up and they're dropper drones. Right now we're focused on FPVs. So he's like, as he's coming back, he's passing me, going back into the bunker. I'm still in the trench. He's like, it's a Mavic. I'm like, okay. And it says, wham! Right into the fucking wall right here, right behind him, right next to my head. Luckily, it was on the upper side of the berm, the trench berm. So it was like here. Like if it exploded, it would have been like here. But there's all this dirt and earth in between us. So there was no shrapnel that came through, but it fucking rang my bell, right? So I was like in the movies where everything's ringing and you're like, you see stars, and I didn't go unconscious, but I stumbled back into the bunker, and my team was like, oh fuck, he's probably fucked up. So they sit me down and they start doing a blood sweep on me really quick. These guys are good. And so they're sticking their hand in my plate carrier, my back. They're checking all the junctionals, right, in between your groin, your armpits, your neck. I was good. There was no shrapnel because there was this earth. It was the overpressure that rang my bell a bit. Anyways, this FPV managed to blow off the rest of that chain link and netting that was above that had protected us from multiple FPVs before. So, dude, this is crazy. I know this is a long story, but fuck, it's a good one. So we kind of tuck into this bunker, which is at the end of the trench, and there's a little wooden door, right? Boom, and we put this little door down, and we're like, okay, shit. All right, what are we gonna do? We start coming up with a plan, and then we hear another FPV come in, and you hear it come in, but this one's not screaming in to dive and attack, right? This one's coming in and looking for us, and so it flew in, and it dropped down into the trench system. And these are fiber optics, so they can go into these areas that normally signal would get lost in with a regular drone. That's not fiber optic, but since these are fiber optic, they're connected directly to the operator, right? So they have no signal. They're hardwired. So he drops into the tunnel, and he's navigating the tunnel until he finds where we are. He sees the wooden door, and we're behind the wooden door hiding. And I hear this. I'm closest to the wooden door because I was the last one in because I got my bell rung. So I'm like, dude, he's here. Like, he's in the fucking trench. The FPV's in the trench. So I'm like, backpacks. And so everybody was throwing their rucksacks to me, and I'm stacking the rucksacks up on the wooden door because I'm like, if this thing just wham into the wooden door, we're fucked. So at least we could put some protection there. And it was a small bunker, man. So everybody tucked in the back, and I just kind of sat with my back on the bags, and the wooden doors behind me, right? So I'm like, just fingers crossed, please don't fucking just jam into this door, because I will get just annihilated. And we contact command. We have limited comms because, again, we're underground. But command says, all right, here's the deal. These FPVs, because they're watching us. God damn, I wish I could share this without this motherfucker in the drill. I'm sorry, guys. So command says, here's the deal. These FPVs are carrying thermal barracks where we're watching them. It said, so when that hits, the overpressure could explode some internal organs like your lungs, right? So what you want to do is when you hear the FPV about to hit the door, hold your breath, plug your ears. There's some ways to mitigate the overpressure from blowing up your lungs. So we're like preparing for this, and I hear the FPV getting closer and closer and closer, and finally I hear it stop. And it's so close I can hear the beeping of the sensors on it. Beep, 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 beep. And finally, it didn't explode, right? So finally, we remove all the bags, we check the door, and it's caught. It's caught in front of our door, probably 5 meters out, on one of the pieces of netting that was hanging into the trench still. So it caught on one of the propellers, and it's the only reason this FPV didn't fly in and murk a whole assault squad. This was a long story. You guys are probably irritated as fuck because of this drill, but I wanted to share that. Netting is important. Sorry, guys.
In general, tunnels are super useful, and we're already seeing bits and pieces of that today. One thing I noticed when I was in Ukraine was that our bunker was constantly getting hit, but one thing I noticed in Iraq was that they didn't know where we were. Our complex was kilometers long, and they didn't know at any specific point where we were inside that network, so they weren't able to go and strike us and kill us. They struck our entrances all the time. They struck the vehicles that would come up and give us resupply, but they did not kill any of us while we were there inside the tunnels. Outside, yeah, they would strike us all the time. Inside, not at all. So these tunnel systems give you the ability to hide within the network anywhere, which makes it so that the missions of most people in Ukraine, which are constantly suppressed by artillery, there's a lot of times where we're just in the bunker getting suppressed by artillery. We just have to sit there. Oh man, when is it gonna stop? 10 minutes later, okay, I think it's good. That is not how it is in tunnels. You have thousands of entrances that you go to go and operate your drone in order to operate your mortar. And you have the mobility to hide within any stretch of this tunnel system to wait out the bombardment. And then you say, oh, well, what if they use artillery? They're gonna cave in the top of the tunnel and you're gonna get caved in. It's gonna suck. No, bunkers survive. Our tunnels were probably about 5 times deeper than the regular bunkers that we have in Ukraine. It's a normal place to have about 2 layers of logs, a little bit of dirt on top, and a tarp to go and protect against rain. And that's your overhead protection on the front line in Ukraine. And we survive. You're not gonna get caved in. It's gonna be very rare. Even if it does collapse 2 sides of you, Well, you have plenty of people in that tunnel system that can dig you out. That was the plan. And if you have blast doors pocketed every 100 meters inside the system, it's going to protect you even more. And I think people have this misconception that this has never been done in war. Like, you know, he's just talking, who's going to actually go to the front line and mine and dig these positions? World War I is often compared to Ukraine because of the artillery, because of the trench systems, not so much because of the drones, but my thought process is to dig the tunnels to prevent us from getting killed by drones. In World War I, sapper work was a very normal thing. Sappers, for a couple months, would dig tunnels from the friendly trench system down underneath to the adversary's position, put a bunch of TNT in the back, run back, blow it up, commence an assault, and this was successful on multiple occasions. The Battle of Messines Ridge was largely successful because of this tunnel network that they dug. Under fire, they were able to get it done. Hawthorne Ridge and Lochnagar Mine. At the beginning of the Battle of the Somme, that was the first thing that happened, was the initiation by a tunnel bomb. I know what you're thinking. You need a lot of machinery. I mean, somewhat, but it's not that bad. People dig positions in Ukraine all the time. 2 kilometers, 4 kilometers from the front line, it's commonplace. That's what we do. We go to the front line, we take a little bit of artillery, we got some drones, we shoot them down, and we just continue digging. It's fairly simple, especially for infantrymen. We're used to digging. Why not just dig a tunnel system down a little bit more and connect it to another trench? It's going to take some months, and you probably want to go and do this about 10 kilometers from the front line, maybe 15, just to stay ahead of the curve. And you don't have to be completely suppressed while you're doing this, but I don't know. Look, I'm no statistician. I'm not that guy. But I've lived in these things, and I know what they can do for you as a soldier with the drone threat. That is why we were driven to the tunnels in the first place in Iraq, was because of the Turkish Bayraktars.
He says he's no statistician, but he fucking should be, right? Because somebody like Sivdiv has a very unique skill set. Very few people in this world have been in the amount of wars that he's been in, and in general, and even fewer are around to still talk about it. He should be, and he's absolutely right. He's been in drones in 2 different conflicts in the Middle East and here in Ukraine. He knows the importance of them better than most people probably.
I don't know if that thing's high up or where it is, yeah. Oh, I see it.
These things are much more credible than these little FPV bombers that you can make. They have the thermal cameras, they have everything. Thermal doesn't work against tunnels. Yeah, they can see some air vents, but they've done direct JDAM strikes on the position I was at. Nobody was killed. The worst injury we had was a concussion, but that was because one of the guys was at the entrance when they struck the entrance from a JDAM, which is much more accurate than a cab or a fab. And as I said earlier, you have operational surprise. The ability to appear or reappear at unexpected surface entrances changes the enemy planning. Defenders must guard more potential approaches, and attackers must search more thoroughly. How many times did the Russians use these underground pipelines to get behind the lines, and the Ukrainians were surprised? And I'm not saying that against the Ukrainians, I'm saying that in the case for tunnel warfare, using these tunnels, whether it's pre-made or made, is beneficial. Yeah, they should have had ventilation or some oxygen or, some other things in order to get through there safer without getting, lung poisoning. But we had that in Iraq. I don't know why they didn't do that. We had oxygen tanks, we had gas masks, we had everything you could have. I'm here alive today. I don't have lung cancer, not yet. And Ukraine already knows this is a huge threat. In Kupiansk, they actually put concertina wire and sandbags and mines at the entrance of one of the pipes that the Russians wanted to use because they know its potential to completely disrupt the defensive lines of the Ukrainians. Distributed redundancy, having all the logistics, whether it's food, water, ammunition, all piled inside one bunker, is very dangerous. It's very dangerous. If that bunker goes away, you're out of ammo. You're out of water and food. What tunnels give you is the ability to disperse all these logistics, which I kind of said earlier, but think about that potential impact that would have on operations. No more huge ammo depots blown up. It also adds on to defense in depth because the Russians push over part of your tunnel section. Well, you can come from behind and then attack it. Yeah, they're surrounded now. They had no idea this was possible. Not to mention that if they do find the entrance, the very start of that tunnel system, who's going to be the first one in? Who wants to be the attacker inside a tunnel system? I will tell you one thing. It is the easiest thing to defend tunnel systems from the adversary. We all know Israel has an incredible military, but they have not yet been able to find all the entrances of Hamas. Even a week ago, I saw another raid from Hamas where 12 fighters came out of the tunnel network, conducted a raid, and then ran back in. Again, this was a week ago. Think about it for a second. If you walk into that tunnel, if there's one guard with an AK that's 100 meters down, he's gonna hear you. Everything echoes down the tunnels. You can hear footsteps 100 meters away. You can hear people breathing or panting or yelling. And all you gotta do at that point is put your rifle out, shoot down the tunnel. And it's even easier than trench warfare because the rounds a lot of times ricochet off the rock walls if it's deep enough. So if you hear a suspicious noise, you just blast a couple rounds down there and it's gonna kill or wound anybody that's coming. If you think about Mariupol, how were the Mariupol defenders able to defend for months after Mariupol was taken? Well, they were in Azovstal. They were able to withstand bombardments, assaults, grenades, drones. They were able to withstand all of that because it was underground. It was subterranean. They had working medical facilities, they had fuel and water and ammunition, they had everything underneath there for months. Now that is a pre-made one where the Russians already knew exactly where the entrances were, but for tunnels that are not pre-made, you'd have opportunities to make tunnel entrances anywhere you wanted. You think about the Viet Cong, the Taliban, they both won the wars. Why did they win? Was it because they were, vastly superior to the American military? No, it was because they had tunnels and they were able to hide and conduct raids at their timing and their choosing. And then you say, oh, the Taliban, they have mountains. Of course, you've got a mountain above you. Yeah, sure, but Viet Cong, I've been in those tunnels. I've visited them. I've crawled underneath them. It's in the middle of a forest. There's just a couple trees and it's completely flat. And there's B-52 bomb craters right next to these tunnel systems that were used by the guerrillas fighting against the American forces. The Vietnamese won. Yes, they took a lot of casualties, but it was not from the people hiding inside the tunnels. When they're in the tunnels, they had no problem at all. When they came out of the tunnels, that's when they had a problem. But even then, the Americans suffered, it shouldn't be lightly taken. They suffered a lot of casualties. They would roll into places that it seems like there's nobody here, and then a battalion of Viet Cong crawls out of the mountain and slaughters everybody. This is pretty routine in the Vietnam War, and it's something that shouldn't be negated. World War I was done in Europe. It was in the plains, where they were still able to dig tunnels to great effectiveness. Preservation of critical infrastructure, whether it's fuel, vulnerable supplies, specialized equipment, it reduces their vulnerability and preserves their combat power over time for when it really matters. When there's a tank assault coming, you pop out with a javelin, you shoot it, and you go inside, and they have no clue where you are 10 seconds later. Which bend did you take? Where's this tunnel even going? There's another entrance right there. Are they going there? Flexibility to reconfigure defensive geometry. Entrances, exits, internal connections can be used to adapt the defensive layout over time, creating alternate approaches, fallback places, or protected staging areas. You're gonna have to get the dirt out somehow, but what we did in Iraq was we hired some Arab workers for $300 a month, and they would dig about 2 meters a day with a pickaxe and a couple machinery, power tools. Just 3 of them. It was a 3-man job. Now their job was to go from one entrance to another, digging, until they linked together, okay? There was 2 teams that were connecting together. And all you have to do is just span that over a little bit more, dig out some more for rooms, and you got it made. If they're locking down an entrance, you dig another one. It takes a day, takes 2 days. It's hard work. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's easy work, but I've done it. I know people, I know women. Half the tunnel workers that I was with when I was digging one of the positions, we dug about 20 meters in a month. We had to also dig out the cavern to go and put the KPV that we had inside there. Half the workers that were helping me were women. They were digging just like us. They were hauling wheelbarrows just like us. They were planting the TNT to blow out some of the rocks just like us. And this is with minimal tools. We had to make the TNT ourselves. I had to go and stir it in a pot and then put it inside paper and put a little primer on it. And Ukraine, out of all places, knows how to dig. You think about the Odessa catacombs. That's where I was at the very beginning of the war because we were prepping for a potential invasion of Odessa. And what could we do? We can't hide inside the city. The ships were bombing us at that time. The Moskva. Yeah, you remember that? It was bombing us. It was right off the coast, bombing us. So we would go inside the catacombs and we were getting it prepped. And we were making routes inside these tunnels so that way we knew where we could go if Odessa was to be attacked. The Odessa catacombs are the largest catacombs in the world. 3,500 kilometers long. And I'm not the first one to think of this idea, coming straight from Iraq and then, let's go to the catacombs. That's the easiest answer. The partisans used this. The partisans in World War II, Ukrainian partisans, were fighting against the Nazi occupation by hiding inside these tunnel networks, thousands of them. Would come outside, conduct sabotage work, assassinations, do reconnaissance, and they go back inside the tunnels. Many of them survived for years underneath there, conducting their work till 1944 when the occupation was ended. This is normal throughout history. This is normal even in modern warfare, and I don't think that we should negate it just because it's asymmetric and it's tunnel warfare. Drones can take care of it, but ground drones, FPV drones. Well, Israel has that capability. Turkey has that capability. And I haven't seen it personally, and we all know that Hamas still exists, and they still use the tunnels. Why aren't they finishing the job? Why don't they just do that, yeah? Again, we had gas masks, we had oxygen tanks, we had everything under the sun, but not under the sun, it was inside. We had concrete blast doors that were fit perfectly so that gas can't come in. And I'm not saying everybody should be doing this, but Taiwan, the Taliban, the Japanese World War II, so many people have used tunnels in the past, and they're very effective, very defensible. You can make entrances anywhere. And again, I'm no statistician, but look, I had to say it. As a tunnel rat, I am bound to the tunnels. I am forever a caveman, and I will not shut my mouth about caves. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys got something from this. I really don't know if you did, but I just want to go and blabber about tunnels again. I do this every once in a while on my channel, and today is no different. So, we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.
Still, dude. Holy fuck. You guys check out SipDiv. Super good info. Tunnels are the backbone of guerrilla warfare, really. Like, he named probably 10 examples of different guerrilla outfits during different wars that have been extremely effective. One of the reasons being because of tunnels. Okay, we'll leave it at that. I don't want to drag on and make you guys listen to this fucking drill any longer. I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully they finish this up soon, man. It's, like I said, it's part of the experience where I live right now. There's a lot of construction happening in Ukraine, as you can imagine. I love you guys. We'll see you in the next video.